Nerds International proudly presents
Alpine, the fourth realm of Earth, a world of fantasy adventure awaiting your imagination.
Warp Shell, a universe in ruin. Countless heroic tales waiting to be weaved through space and time.
Ghost Mountain, a place caught between heaven and hell, filled with fireside tales of the Wild West. These are the worlds of Index Card RPG, and this is a podcast about those worlds.
Welcome to the Threats, Treats, and Timers podcast, episode 10, numero teno. How do you say 10 in Spanish?
Diaz.
That's like your last name.
Actually, it's spelled D-I-E-S. My last name is spelled D-I-A-Z. Diaz is the number 10. Diaz is plural for days.
Is that what your last name stands for? It's plural for days?
Uh-huh. Days. So
I
Victor
think
Days.
I think that you should tell all the ladies that it's Victor 10, and then don't tell them what the 10 stands for.
What happens if they're Latina? They're going to know the difference.
Only hit on other problem solved.
Well, that's no fun.
This is true. Variety is the spice of life. Don't tell my wife I said that out loud. I am one of your hosts, Gary, a.k.a. the Murder Hobo, and I'm here, as always, with, you heard him, the man, the myth, the legend, Victor Diaz.
Y'all ready for this?
What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, Gary? Welcome back to Threats, Treats, and Timers, episode 10. Gary, can you believe it? We are back after hiatus, continuing this great saga that we call ICRPG.
Yeah, it's nice to have a bunch in the can. We did 2 last week, so this week I'm actually going to be releasing episode 9, and then this one will get released in 2 weeks from now, so it's really dumb that we're talking about time stuff, but who cares, because it's me and you, and we can do what we want, right? I got a nice little treat in the mail the other day from Mornay Schnapp that I got to read over, and I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited about it, and you know what it is, but it's not out yet, so we can't really say. But speaking of 10, it has something to do with the size of things. Just saying.
And that's all we're going to say about that.
You had something to do with that, didn't you?
Yeah, so Morn Shop and I have been talking about an ICRPG scenario or little adventure we call Size Matters. And him and I have been working over it just the last couple of weeks, going back and forth, hashing over some rules. He's really gotten creative, and he's decided to come up with this little adventure where everybody gets shrunk down. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. It's going to be a little bit different scene and different style for what everyone's used to for ICRPG. You know, it's not sci-fi. It's not necessarily a fantasy. It's more of a modern twist on that good old archetypical game of shrinking the party down and having them run around in a bunch of different places like the kitchen. So there's some fun rules, and there's some fun things that I think Morn's really clicked on that I'm really liking. I am actually going to put that through playtest sometime this weekend, God forbid, and we'll see what happens with that. I'll get back to him, and we'll give some feedback to him, and I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to get that out to everybody.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put it through the read test because I don't have time to do the play test because my group's into 50 Fathoms. The Size Matters was put out for Savage Worlds originally, and it's been converted into ICRPG. If you're not familiar with Morn and his material, he wrote Winter Eternal for Savage Worlds. He started a company called Just Insert Imagination that he is partners with Eric Lamoureux, my bro from the Wild Eye Poopcast. And if you haven't seen their stuff, this is what I love about it. If you go to conventions, they have convention-ready material. Size Matters, for example, it's going to come with all of the characters. He's actually put in artwork for the different creatures like the spiders, the rats, the cockroaches, all of that stuff. You're going to get all the little table tents. You're going to get the maps for the rooms and the stories, the pre-generated characters, everything, all in one easily printable PDF. Now, Gaming and BS, Brett and Sean Kelly always talks about Forget About It, which was written by Eric, which is a really neat and very interesting little mafia deal where you got a guy, the game starts with a dude in the trunk and you're taking him out to bury him in the desert. and things happen from there. But again, that is, if you haven't seen the Just Insert Imagination stuff, that is campaign ready. You buy that from Just Insert Imagination, and away you go, which I really think is fantastic. It's basically it's game done. Read it. Everything is there. All you got to do is buy it and print it off and familiarize yourself with it, and you got a con game. I love the way that they do stuff like that, con ready stuff. It's slick. Anyways, all right, well, that's enough about that. Leaving that behind, Just Insert Imagination, let's get into some ICRPG news and see what's new in the last week.
Okay, everybody, this one's dedicated to the old country, where you used to sip on bourbon all day, slay goblins, and get some sweet loot. It's called Walking Through Alfheim. Come on. Walking through Alfheim, getting to know a wilder kind, looking for a purpose in a tavern side. I would meet you anywhere. Cold and the gar meets the air. Tirolo Stanos, never looking behind. Yeah! Woo! Alfheim, everybody! Woo! Shit! Where's the whiskey?
If you guys haven't checked it out, you need to check out this Runehammer artwork that Matt Shaker has permanently put on his left shoulder. Awesome stuff, Matt. That takes is way cool.
That takes some stuff to you know what I mean?
Ooh, yeah, and it's not little, dude. It's probably the size of a cell phone, right there on his shoulder.
Yeah,
That's a nice piece of ink.
Definitely substantial and definitely very cool looking. Hopefully, he never gets into a fight with Hankerin and regrets his decisions. That's why you should only ever tattoo your girlfriend's name on your chest or your butt cheek. No, wait a second. That's that's just more bad. Whatchamacallit. Kevin Goltz back at it with Alfheim classes. I'm looking forward to this guy releasing some of his stuff. He said that this is page 5 for his. It's a new transmuter class or something that he's created for his pirate setting that he's dropping in here. I don't have access to it because it's. I guess you have to request access. But yeah, the Epoch. It's just another one of his fantastic looking characters. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've been actually keeping track of some of the stuff that he's been putting out for some of the classes. There's a fantasy game that we started for ICRPG that I think my bi-weekly group wants to take up and continue on and using. And I think some of the classes might work in there. So I'm definitely going to play some of this stuff out and see what it feels like out on the table. Some of the guys have hinted towards going in the direction of the classes that he's making. So I don't know. There's still some play testing to be done there, but I like what I see so far.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm under the impression that Kevin is actually going to release his own full-on pirate setting for ICRPG, because I've been watching some of the stuff that he's been pumping out, and he keeps talking about it, but I'm not 100% sure. We got to get some of these guys in the show, I swear, because it'd be just fascinating to talk to them and pick their creative brains.
Yeah, you and Kevin need to get together, and you can finally put together that 50 Fathoms ICRPG.
Just steal all his material when it comes out and be done with it.
Just shave off the serial numbers and put 50 Fathoms on it. You'll be fine. Put 51 Fathoms, and it'll be different.
Yeah, right? And I'm good to go. I won't get sued by whoever.
Everyone.
What else we got? We talked about Mornay stuff coming out. What else has been out in the last week?
Random Table of Things by Joe Koo. That one's pretty cool. He made some stuff, some extra bits and bobs, like he said, for GMs and DMs to enjoy. So the Random Table of Things for ICRPG is literally just that. You take, you roll on the table to work out what dice you have. You get to see what target numbers, if you want to make up random target numbers for your rooms. Lots of fun little tools and randomization charts for those GMs that like to roll like that.
Mm-hmm. He did a cyberpunk thing that I was looking up. I got to go back and check it out. Oh, here it is. SLA horror mashup, cyberpunk and SLA. So what do we got here? We got some vampires and some other things. You got a bunch of vampire stuffs going on in here. You got some werewolf action, dormant mages, awakened mages, cybertech stuff. Well, how many pages are in this thing? This is the best part about the ICRPG community, seeing what people come up with.
It's got 7 pages of stuff that's in here. It's all pretty good stuff. Everybody go check it out. Go down to your Google Docs or your Google Plus page and click on that. It'll take you to his Google Doc. And it looks like he has a pretty interesting scenario of different types of cybernetics, humanity rules, hacking systems, along with vampires and werewolves, all mixed together in a blender. That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah. I just saw the comic book for Matt C. He's like, I stumbled across this strip on Reddit. So basically it starts off and it's like this guy is poking the 10-foot pole down the hallway, right? Everybody's done that when they were a kid. I'm gonna tap each one of these square stones as we walk down the hallway. And so there's a guy laying up against the wall and he's like, man, this is gonna take forever. And so the guy's like, it's not like we're on a timer, and then you see somebody point up, and it's like there's a dice there. Like, what's that for? And then the room, like, literally, like, explodes, which is a cool reason why you should throw timer dice into your game to stop people from doing dumb things like poking each slab in the hallway as they run down it.
That'll teach your players from looking for every single thing, turning over every single rock, unlocking and picking every single door they come across. Put a timer on the table. It'll make them sweat.
Yeah, last week... we had a little bit of a technical glitch, and some of the stuff that you were talking about didn't come out. Now, you had made mention of Catherine for some reason, and I meant to ask you about that while I got you here. Now, was it Catherine Cronin that you were talking about? You wanted to get her on the show or something like that?
Yeah, she was talking about where's the ICRPG podcast for it? And she's like, if there isn't one, I want to make one. And I'm like, all right, ahead, come on the show. Let's talk about it. Make up another podcast for ICRPG. There is a slew of material there. I'd love to talk to her about it and talk to her about what she thinks about the system and just role-playing in general. I think we don't get enough female voices in the podcast industry, let alone talking about index card role-playing games. So it's always nice to have a different voice and a prettier one. No offense there, Gary, on the screen.
I thought we were friends, man.
What are you talking about? That is because we're friends. I'm just being honest with you.
There goes my self-esteem.
So, Catherine, so get on the horn, give us a holler, contact us somewhere through G+, get our email, or just send us a hangout. We'll see what we can do about scheduling you on the show. That'd be great.
One and done. I'll actually contact her and see if she wants to come on and shoot the breeze. One and done. Awesome. Legs before sundown. So this is a issue number 1. It says summer 2018. Maybe they'll put out for a year. I don't know if it's a seasonal thing. But this is an adventure written by One and Done. I guess Michael McLean and Deborah Sowart. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. So this is some kind of a fantasy adventure that they threw together. You could pick it up for $1.99 on drive-thru. I haven't had a chance to look at it, although I did buy it because the link when I originally purchased it didn't work, but it does now. And then I got busy and I was peeking at it tonight. And it's actually another one of these. It's a complete module. You got everything in there from your paper standees to the maps and the story and everything. There's some nice stuff going on in there.
A lot of the cards have looks like all the monsters and all the extra items that you would need to play the game. They even say the very first paragraph, it's to be played in one night. So it's a one shot for 3 to 5 players using ICRPG 2nd edition. So lots of cool stuff in here. It follows the black and white maps and different types of artwork that Hankering is known for, but with their own little style. I really like it. It's really well done, well put together. I think it'll be an interesting playthrough. Another one to try to add to the fire.
Yeah, exactly right. John Bentz, GM Grizzly, he threw up some kind of character sheet for Junked. I don't know if you've seen that's on here, but it's like an index card kind of vehicle pilot thing for playing the Junked game. Yeah,
so he calls it Forces, which he's put together. It has to do with mass warfare. It's one of the supplements that he's created for ICRPG as GM Grizzly. And he says Forces meets Chunks, which is the rules for vehicles, and Junked. Oh, yeah. So it looks like he's doing a mashup of all 3 of Hank's ideas or concepts there.
Yeah, that actually looks pretty sweet. Man, I got a chance to play Junked when I was camping, and it is actually pretty fun. Rolling into people, blasting them off the board and stuff like that. I got my butt kicked a couple of times, but what can you do,
I still
right?
got to hunt down some more Hot Wheels cars because we've been using them for Gaslands, and I've been dying to play Junk, so I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I've read through the rules a couple of times and seen a couple of people talk about it. We've talked about it just around here. So I think it's one of those games where I'm going to put on the back burner and save for one of those nights where we don't know what to play or we have a player missing or something. We're just going to throw it on the table and say, hey, let's try this and see how it goes. I just got to, like I said, I got to find my Hot Wheels and put them together. I think it'll be a lot of fun that way. That's how it was intended. You've seen the video for it, right? That Hankering's done for Junked?
Yep. I checked it out.
The game. Some of his models are just sick modeling on those. Love it.
His badass little briefcase that he has his little track in and stuff is pretty cool. Eh?
Yeah, that is all in. Talk about a board game in a box. That's pretty unique.
So yeah, that's it for the news. Let's get over to Warp Shell. We're going to talk about Warp Shell characters today. I'm kind of excited about this because my first foray into ICRPG was Flight of the Red Sword. Fantastic.
Yeah, mine too. Love it. Not enough good things to say about the Warp Shell World Primer and all the stuff that's in the books for those. If you guys have not picked up the books, if you haven't picked up the World's book, do yourself a favor, go out to Drive-Thru RPG, pick up the PDF, or go on to Amazon, or just go to ICRPG.com and you can find the links to all the books and all the stuff that we're talking about if you guys are new. Yeah, Warp Shell classes. Absolutely love the way Hankerin's little Sharpie scribbles bring out the flavor in the whole game. That first one, the tank, just speaks mecha, power armored, robot android, killer cyborg kind of character. Strength is the only cosmic law is the quote that he puts down for the tank. So appropriate for, just a boss robot out there with a bunch of guns. Even a Terminator kind of character would be a tank in my book.
I like that the tank is actually a robot because you would think in the future that they would be like smart enough to make robots to be the first one to go in so that the people that are made of flesh and bone aren't getting slaughtered. When we played, my tank was a big chicken chisel and ran away. That was I've never been a tank that runs away. But
you can't say that now.
Right. One of the cool parts about playing this tank, and one of the things that just stood out to me back when I played one of the actually I should say my first foray into my first game of ICRPG was my Gartar game that I ran a long time ago. But one of the guys had the force shield module where you ignore any damage. I think it might have been 3 or less at the time, but it's been boosted up, and that really adds to this tanky feel because if you're hitting this guy with a weapon and any damage of 4 or less makes the shield come up and you take nothing.
Yeah, bullets are flying off, shotgun blasts, missiles, energy beams. Yeah, if you're rolling weapon damage for most things that are going to hit you, you're only rolling a D6. So 4 points or less, that means you're only hitting 20% of the time, or you're doing damage 20% of the time. So typical of a tank. I love that. And that's what you start out with as your starter reward for this character, a force shield module, which is ignore any damage of 4 or less. Just genius.
So Impervium Plating says that you can make a strength attempt to shrug off a single attack. How many times can you do that? Is that essentially every round?
I would say,
you want, I guess, eh?
Since everyone only has usually 1, maybe 2 attacks at the most, every single time that they go, you're only going to be rolling that once every time on the GM's turn. You're going to be rolling, if he tries to hit you, attacks you with a missile launcher, you're going to make a strength attempt to shrug off the attack. If you don't, and he rolls low on the weapon damage or, magic damage or whatever kind of damage on the effort, your force shield module may kick in and you may not take any damage anyways.
That's actually a good point.
That's the point, right? You should be able to do that. You should be able to make a strength check and just by the sheer force of your own ability and toughness, shrug off an attack. And even if you don't, your force shield might come up and, block some of that shotgun shell to the face or whatever else might be thrown.
The pulse boots let you shoot around. Yeah, speaking of which, if we just go back for half a second, it's kind of cool because you're the tank. You're supposed to be the first guy in. You're probably going to take multiple attacks when it comes around to you. Everybody's going to be smashing the tank and stuff like that, which is, so you can, one of them, every time it comes around, you could just make a strength check and, succeed or fail. That's pretty neat. I like that. I like that mechanic. That's actually pretty cool, especially for a tank.
Yeah, ion ammo module is also a good idea. Explode any shot including nearby targets in the blast. Of course, you're going to have a shotgun type or an explosive type weapon where you can hit more than 1 or 2 guys. The tank's going to run in and just start, blasting folks and getting people on their heels. So give you guys a chance to be able to come in and do what you need to do. Totally appropriate. Now we're talking about milestone rewards, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys are keeping up with us, we're on page 39 of the ICRPG. Warp Shell classes is the topic of that chapter. And this is the very first one at the top. It is called the tank.
It doesn't have to be a robot. It could literally be anything that you want it to be.
It can be Arnold.
You could
Just
be
do
Arnold.
it.
You could be a blob of goop if you so wanted to be.
Oh, Star Frontiers, where are you? I miss Star Frontiers.
Have you seen what is the Family Guy that created the new Star Trek thing there? There's a blob on there that's played by Norm Macdonald. It's so stupid, but awesome at the same time. All right, back on track. The Ronin. So the Ronin is the fantasy or the sci-fi version of the Scout? No. He's the weapon DPS guy.
Yeah, he's like the merc. He's the guy who does everything. He has a weapons kit, a machete, a shotgun, a rope and hook, armor. He carries a drone. He's the miscellaneous, good at everything, but not a master of anything. Definitely something that you want in your toolkit of people that you can call upon for some help when you need it. His quote says, "I do it all, and I'm the best there is." Just classic, man. I love that. And the starter reward that you get is his drone kit. So whenever you get one weapon, you can use it as a remote operated drone. So if you just happen to have a pulse rifle lying around, you can mount the pulse rifle on the drone kit, and now you have a crawling pulse rifle that can shoot on its own that's remotely operated. That's awesome. That's probably taken from the cyberpunk stuff for Shadowrun as the rigger, where you can remote control vehicles and drones and stuff. Either way, really cool, multi-use character there.
Yeah, this is what I really enjoy about this game. Just the bolt-ons that you can get, because one little thing, one little piece of loot can change the flavor of your character so immensely. Targeting lasers, you strap it on your drone weapon, and then if you roll 18 plus, you do ultimate effort. It's like you're critting on an 18 or better, which is really cool. What about ion grenades?
This is the best part. Double ultimate effort on nearby targets. And for those of you who don't play ICRPG, and if you're not, what are you waiting for? Ultimate effort is a D12. So you not only get ultimate effort with an ion grenade, you get 2d12 on all targets that are nearby. That is massive. You can take, Dragon Kings down with that.
Very cool. So what is this this Blood of Furies? You can trade hit points for a weapons effort bonus.
Sure. So if you have, say you have 10 hit, you have 1 heart's worth, 10 hit points, and you roll your weapon effort of 4, I'm going to use 3 hit points and add that to my weapon effort. So, you can roll your weapon effort die and add 3 to it. So you're pretty much, you're putting everything you can into the shot, into the bullet, into the strike to be able to cause more damage.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a rage, but you're sort of using your own life essence. That's wickedly cool. Yeah, the Ronin, man, mercenary, fighter DPS is the gist of what I get from that guy. You got your tank class, which is going to be he's your fighter that's taking all the damage, and the Ronin is your fighter that does all the damage. So we split
your Ronin's
from that
like
guy.
a Swiss Army knife. He'll open anything.
Right. That's what it should say is his, whatchamacallit.
You were talking about the scout earlier. That's what the ghost is, in my opinion. The ghost is the scout, the guy that sneaks into the shadows ahead of the group and tries to do everything he can to either take out an enemy quietly that's going to maybe set off an alarm or give the team the advantage to be able to get past whatever obstacles they have. His quote says, "The deadliest powers go unseen." Again, just awesome flavor for a really fun character class. You start out with a Firestone, Duranium blades, which are 2 big like curved swords. At least that's how they're depicted in the book. A rope and hook, which is always nice to have, and then a weapons kit. Everything that you need to be able to be a scout right off the top of your head.
You get stealth module out of the gate. That's pretty sweet too. So you can go invisible until you touch or attack a target. I like that is sort of standard D&D trope across the board. As soon as you go to attack somebody or be attacked, if they happen to see you for whatever reason, then your invisibility always comes off.
Yeah, why change what works, right? Everyone knows it. Everyone's familiar with it. Just continue using it.
Smoke capsules, blip pack. So you can port yourself or move up to far distances, a blip pack. So would you consider that, say, I guess for lack of a better word, as a trapping, like thrusters in your pant or in your shoes? You press a button and jump or whatever, and away you go.
It could be a miniature, a belt buckle with a miniature teleporter on it. You hit the button and bloop, you're 100 yards away from where you were before. It could be a little bit of anything, really. But far distances in 0 time, that means you can move, you can blip and then move and attack in the same turn. And there's no limit. There's no role other than the fact that you can destroy the blip pack, which Hankerin is known for doing.
Now, so this guy wouldn't technically be considered the sci-fi thief. He's more along the lines of, like, I guess in a sense he would be like an assassin.
Assassin or a ranger, I think, maybe without all the natural abilities, like the forest abilities, the animal abilities, some of the tracking stuff. This guy's more of like a ranger thief or a scout thief. Even an assassin would be a good way to put it, especially with those duranium blades.
Yeah, he goes invisible, sneaks into where he needs to be, and then he attacks from melee range.
Yep, and then blips out using his blip pack, and all in the same turn. Yeah.
So here's a nice one that I like. I always, usually when I play like MMOs online and stuff like that, I'm always the ranged DPS. My character wants a beats in World of Warcraft was the hunter class, which I thought was just fantastic. Send in your bear, send in your pets or whatever, which was actually also cool too. You could go around and get different pets. I had a spider at one point and whatnot, but send them in and then just stand back and do some blasting. So the gunner class.
This guy's a one-man killing machine, the ghost. He doesn't even need the bear or the extra animals to do that. Right? Yeah, that's what the gunner's for. He's going to sit around and shoot and throw the grenades in and block and blow everybody up.
This guy's got a catchphrase too. Lay it on me.
Just shoot what I shoot and we'll make it out alive. Dude, that's just awesome. Yeah, here's my shotgun. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Weapons kit, particle gun, Gauss launcher. Now, Gauss is like a bit of an exploding bullet, is it not?
Correct.
Yeah,
yep. It's a heavy, usually a heavy barreled or a heavy, long barreled, real heavy round that tends to be explosive, similar to a rail gun where it's magnetically launched, but it's just a big old fat slug that when it hits you, it's going to destroy anything it hits. As a starter reward, you get that burst fire unit. So check this out. Okay, so you choose one weapon, and of course, I'm going to choose the Gauss launcher. You choose one weapon and you modify it. You're going to put this burst fire unit on it. On a hit roll, on a hit, you roll effort 3 times and distribute between the targets as you desire. Wow. You're just going to obliterate like everything in front of you and their friends.
It's Savage World's bolt spell, but you're casting 3 bolts all at once.
That's awesome.
So if you hit and there's people standing beside him, or I guess you could drop all 3 shots into the same enemy, you could just...
Yeah. It tells you to roll effort 3 times. So if you have a Gauss launcher, you're going to roll a D6 because it does weapon damage. But if you put the burst fire unit, you're going to roll 3d6, and you can choose between 1, 2, or 3 targets how you want to distribute those dice to them. But that's pretty cool. Now, note, because you chose this weapon and you modified it, if the weapon is lost or destroyed, the burst fire unit is also lost. So there's kind of a give and take mechanic there that kind of makes it really unique.
Well, you could always get another burst fire unit from somewhere,
Yeah. For me, the gunner reminds me of the Marine with the big machine gun just shooting away out into combat.
No, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
Yeah, you can make up a bunch of different gunners with this guy. If you look at the milestone rewards, you get a cold diamond scope, which gives you 3 to when you're scouting for targets. You get a nano missile, so a simple check. You can launch a homing missile that does ultimate effort on impact with 1 target. I always love to do ultimate effort. Yeah, no, dude, that's pretty much a magic missile, just to throw away 1 magic missile. Slam loader, which means you can reload a weapon in 0 time. A strip kit, which gives you a +3 to repair, mod, or build a weapon. And of course, you get the infamous Heartstone. It gives you an extra heart to add to your hit points. You can do a sniper. You can do a heavy weapons guy. You can do a missile guy. You can do a shotgun in your face kind of guy. That's some pretty cool stuff you can do there.
When I was listening to Sea of Rust, I'm not sure what character Hankerin was playing, but I know he was like the Zill where he could like sort of undo his parts and float himself around. He had the building ability, like to create stuff and whatnot. And sometimes on his turn, like in one turn, he's just like, I'm going to build a little spider that will attach to so-and-so, and it's going to be like a little med pack, give him 1 hit point back. He made scrolls and he just built it, which I thought was like, inevitably, that was super cool to listen to. He built that. Then they found the fragment, and he builds a drone and punches in the coordinates for this fragment to take it back to the warp shell, their ship, which was pretty cool. And then they just carried on their adventure kind of a thing. I'm like, I like that idea in the game, like the freedom to do whatever you want to do, which is pretty slick.
And the fact that the rules allow you to do it so easily and so the rules just get out of the way to allow the story and the player to be able to tell a story like that. That's the genius behind index card RPG. And there's a few games that can do that. But this is the newest and brightest, and I think the quickest version of a rules-like game that you can get into. It's one of the shining reasons why we like index card RPG.
The slam loader says that you can reload a weapon in 0 time. Is there a rule inside ICRPG that says it takes a round to reload, or are we just saying that it should take a round because, like in almost every other game, it does as well?
Sure, I would think it would take an action if you ran out of bullets, but there's very few times where there's very few weapons that I can think of that allow you to run out of ammo, because you don't track ammo in ICRPG. Mm-hmm. But there could be lots of reasons, right? You could be really low on ammo and say the GM only gave you 3 rounds because that's all there was. So you have to keep track of those 3 rounds before you run out of ammo. Or maybe they blew up all, you got hit and the GM keeps you from dying because it hit your ammo pack. But unfortunately, you don't have any more ammo. So now you need to do something to reload or find some other way to do it. I mean, there's lots of ways you can integrate that into the story, but I don't think this is one of those moments where it would be more story driven and less accounting, where you're counting every single bullet for every single gun that you shoot off of.
Mm-hmm. Alex Alvarez played a cowboy sort of like with a 6-shooter. And so when he was shooting, that's literally, he was counting his bullets. And there was a time when...
But it's a 6-shooter, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So you know how many bullets you're got to have, especially if you're burst firing or single shotting every single one. That's a little easier to count. But it was more probably character driven than it was for him to just mechanically keep track of it, because he probably only has like 12 bullets or a certain number of reloads. Yeah,
and I think his idea of the slam loader was the ability to just replace the entire, the 6-pack Holden bullet, whatever the swivel deal.
Yeah, because they have quick loaders for those cylinder type pistols where you can reload all 6 bullets and just you open it, drop your shells, push all 6 bullets in there, pull the trigger back out, reload it, and you're done. And it's all in one hand. It's all real nice.
Yes. Zurin monks. What do these guys do? These are the clerics, healing classes, kind of a deal, or are these the mages?
The Zurin are the healing classes. They all have wisdom powers. So his quote is, "The more we resist, the more we suffer." So he starts out with meditation beads, robes, walking sticks, supplies, a Karakian lute, and all that other fun stuff. So I think it's definitely a cleric class, because his wisdom power that he starts with is healing words. With a wisdom attempt, you get to heal with magical effort, and you must be heard in order for it to function. So if he's wearing a gag, he's not going to be able to heal anybody. But definitely a spiritually powered monk is the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Didn't make it into my game. I had a tank, I had a blip, and I had a fragment. Nobody wanted to play the healer.
Guns, blasters, and more blasters.
Right? Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the healing class, especially throwing out some buffs. What do we get? We get Healing Novus. This is one of the things that I was talking about last time that I think is really cool. Heal everybody on a spell or on an attempt. Words Beyond Time. Hard roll to reverse time. Events of the previous round are undone. Oh, what?
Yeah. Let's read that again. So this is an int spell. This is an intelligence spell. So the Zurin and most magical casters can do both. They can use wisdom powers and intelligence spells. ICRPG doesn't differentiate much between the two mechanically. This is an int spell. So when he makes a hard intelligence check, he is allowed to reverse time, which means all of the events of the previous round are undone, and then you just continue on as if nothing happened. Now, that can have some serious consequences if you defeated a big enemy or a monster and you're still fighting, and now you undid all that. But someone might have been killed in that previous round that you have to cast this spell. So, I mean, there's give and take because you have to make a hard roll, but that could be some really powerful stuff when you start messing with time. But that's the Zurin. That's what they do.
That is friggin' crazy cool.
That could have some interesting consequences in a game. And it's real simple. Hard roll, reverse time.
So, yeah. One round.
Anything I just got to shake my head on how simple he makes those difficult things to do.
Yeah, that is really simple. The blip is next. So now the blip class is going to be the scout in...
he's going to be the scout, the explorer. He's going to be a psyker, and he's going to have a lot of tech going with him. His quote says, "Why are you way back there?" assuming that he probably left you behind. He starts out with the weapons kit, common armor, an EVA suit, which is very unique, a blast pistol, a duranium blade, and a spyglass, in addition to some high-tech tools. Now, check this out. As a starter reward, he's going to start with a phase core. And the phase core says you make a near move without traveling between them. So you can do pretty much what the, let's see, what was that piece of equipment? It was called the Blip Pack. Move up to far distances in 0 time with the Ghost class. But the Blip actually has one called the phase core and allows him to near move without traveling in between. So it's kind of like he teleports, or he does the Star Trek disintegration and reintegration out on the planet. He can do that within a close proximity. Mm-hmm. So he can jump from, on the other side of a door. I'm assuming he wouldn't have to see where he is going, but we'd have to make that call during the game. Still really cool.
Yeah, I let him in my game. Absolutely blip through a wall. You're taking your chances, but literally, if there was something on the other side of that door, you phase into it. Tell me how many spaces you want to go past that door, and that's where you're going to end up inside whatever's there. The EVA suit. Here's one of the problems that I ran into. So the EVA suit, I didn't know what it was. It doesn't say what it is. It doesn't say anything about it. And then I found out how you find out where it's at. When we rolled in Flight of the Red Sword, into the first little area there, I told them it was like, okay, this is where you can tell that this room would look like where the pirates or a pirate would haul all their loot in this big cargo bay. So they started looking through some of the stuff, and this is where I gave him a bit of treasure. He rolled an EVA suit, and then I'm like, oh, okay, so it's in the treasure under this list, and then it tells you exactly what it does, which is pretty neat. The blip was a lot of fun, and what I'm getting from Phase Core is you can make a near move without traveling in between. So when I read that, I'm like, if you get your 6 spaces, your 6 squares or whatever, you can make a near move and still move 6.
Correct.
I like it when I'm right.
Yeah, that's how I would do it. I mean, if you can make a near move, you can just, move your banana or move however space that you're allowed to move near. And then you can blip an additional, amount anywhere that you want in any direction, crossing over terrain, crossing in between people. There could be people in between you, monsters, creatures, walls, grenades, explosions, a trench, whatever, supernova, and you can just teleport from one side of to the other. That's half the point of being a blip, is your mobility and your speed.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing when he created this class, but this class just seems like top notch. You get twin duranium claws, so when you attack, you can attack twice. You can phase core and then use your jump jets if you have them to make a far one. You have a displacement cloak that gives you +4 to your armor, and then there's this mini grav anchor, which is awesome. So you could blast this into the roof and pull yourself up on a cable. So you're all over the place, man. You're just doing all sorts of weird what's that video game anyways? Overclock core. Roll all ultimate effort for the next 1d6 rounds. Are you freaking kidding me?
Because you're not doing enough already, right? You ran 6 inches. You used your phase core to teleport to the other side of the wall. You used your mini grav anchor to shoot it up to the top of the ceiling. You got to the top of the ceiling, found a hole in the ceiling, used your jump jets to go out into space on the outside of it. You got shot at and used your displacement cloak to cover your armor. Oh, and by the way, when you do get close enough to hit, you can use ultimate effort for the next D6 round. What are you guys going to do? Like he said in the saying, why are you way back there? I mean, that's just totally awesome.
Yeah,
but if you look at it, though, you look at the balance, you can see that this guy's mostly movement. There's very little weapons, tricks, grenades, blasters, or anything like that he's using. He just has a blast pistol and a weapons kit and a duranium blade. That's all he has. He's pretty much running around with a dagger and a gun. Granted, he's running on the wall, on the ceiling, outside, and around the whole room before you've had a chance to react. But
portal here.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of the guy from the Marvel, the X-Men, the guy in the silver suit that runs real fast. Not the Flash, the other X-Men guy, the son of Magneto. That guy, you know what I'm talking about, the one that's running through the room and everything's going really slowly and he's pushing people with bullets out of the way. And that whole scene. I think the blip could easily do some of that. Whatever you do, no one give him the spell words beyond time. That'll just ruin it for everybody.
Yeah, right. The fragment is going to be your intelligence DPS spell class or spellcasting class.
Yeah, this is my favorite. I like the fragment. I got to play, when I played Flight of the Red Sword, I got to play a Psyker bioform that was a fragment. And he was what he called the follower of Yogg, was the whole deal behind him. But pretty much the statement for the fragment is, or the quote is, "The crystal presence is eternal." I just like the floating, the floating model with, one arm up holding, magic in his hand or whatever, or her hand. I thought it was a really cool look. They start out with a Firestone. You get a spell book, which is always nice to have. Saves you slots on your equipment list. Common armor and a blast pistol. But their first spell is going to be the classic fire missile. You roll an intelligence check, and you can pretty much hit anything, any target in sight, and ignites anything that's flammable. So if you douse your opponents in oil or hot flaming gasoline, it's always nice to use this spell to light them afire.
That's my favorite. Nothing says, successful mission like having a dude on fire when it's all said and done.
Yeah, burning ash. That's all that was.
Pile of cinders.
Yeah, the fragments, the spell class, the spellcaster of the whole group. So you're going to get as your milestone rewards 3 different spells: Crystal Sanctuary, Control Machines, and Death Nova. Control Machines was fun. I got that one, and I was able to control a machine to overcome a giant robot that had these 2 big mega plasma cannons on it. And I managed to control the machine, and I turned it off, and then we ripped one of the cannons off, and I was using that to fight with it the whole time. So there's some pretty fun spells. The Death Nova is absolutely sick. It drops your character to 0 hit points, which means you're going to die. And a blast hits all targets not behind cover, but you get to roll triple ultimate effort. There's very, very, very few things that allow you to roll that much ultimate effort, and Death Nova is one of them, appropriately named.
How does that work? You cast the spell, and when it's all said and done, you're in dying mode.
Yeah, so you're going to roll to see how many rounds that you're going to survive, right? You roll your regular D6, and that many rounds it's going to take before you're dead. You pretty much fall unconscious, or you fall to the point where you're no longer, you're going to die. And somebody's got to come up and try to rescue you or try to revive you. One of your friends, the don't die on me, man rule.
Yeah,
but you're going to roll 3d12 against any targets not behind cover in a big old blast.
I could see somebody, like namely the healer and this class, just basically she walks in with very little hit points, takes 1 hit, or maybe on her first spell she casts Death Nova, lights out, blows everything up. The priest casts heal. She gets back up, does it again.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen where the fragment will cast Death Nova. They'll start to die. The Zyrin is going to heal her. The ghost says, "Here, use my blip pack," and he blips a far distance, to be able to get to the fragment in time, and rescues them all within 1 round. Just like total teamwork, trying to get that all to work and trying to get it together. And then what does the fragment do? I cast Death Nova again. And there we go through the whole process all over again.
Nice. So fun. The Titan. So what is this? Oh, this is the commander class, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah, the Titan. This is the strategy expert, the indomitable fighter, as he puts it, moral lightning rods. His quote is, "We make our stand here. The cosmos depends upon it." Yeah, total commander class type of saying right there.
Yeah, that's neat. Drain star. So for each 5 damage you deal, heal 1 hit point. Wow, that is really cool.
Every time you hit, every time you do damage, that the Titan does damage, he's going to heal a hit point if you do more than 5 in a turn. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the int spells that he's come up with. So imbue shield, you make a shield that can absorb 20 effort. You got like a Duranium Greatsword. Oh, always roll ultimate effort with a Duranium Greatsword.
Oh, yeah. Duranium Greatswords are one of my favorites. You get to roll a lot of damage with the Duranium Greatsword. And you're going to need that shield if you're going to be in hand-to-hand with something taking that kind of hits. Because remember, everybody only starts out with 1 heart. So 10 hit points doesn't go very far.
Yeah, no kidding. Aura of Power, +3 Charisma when leading a battle. And this Lazarus ring. Yeah, sweet.
The Lazarus ring. You roll a D8 when you die instead of a D6. So if you're lucky and you roll high enough, you may get 1 or 2 extra rounds more than the usual.
Yeah, and then lastly, we've got the Outsider. What is this guy? What is the little catchphrase here?
The quote for him is dimensional context, time inversion, green tea. This is the weirdo alien kind of class, where the you can really throw some really weird stuff together. The description states some races have been assimilated by the outsiders, who appear as domed figures with separated positronic brains. They can only leave their EVA suits in a dimensional conduit, or they perish from time rifting. It's just a weirdo alien class. This is typical Hankerin type of flavor that he adds in here. He gives him a weapon kit, an EVA suit, a blast pistol, an energy blade, some tech tools, but he does start him out with something interesting. The starter reward is a matter distension coil. So whenever you use this item, you roll an intelligence roll, and you become stretchy, quote unquote, for one turn. Plastic man.
Yeah, cool.
Definitely.
Clone emitter. On a hard int check, create 1d4 self-clones that last until one of them is touched.
Dude, isn't that awesome for a milestone reward? I'm just going to copy myself, and you hit the copy button on your suit, and now you have 4 clones.
Mm-hmm. See, here's the spell. Create device, a variable intelligence check with effort equal to desired device. So you can just create stuff on the fly. I'm going to create a little a little box that just pops out keys, and you can just use it as like a lock picking box or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just stuff
totally.
like that's
I could
really
easily
sweet.
see this guy pulling something out, and he's going to create a device, and he likes the blip device that one of the scouts has, so he's going to create his own. You're just going to make a hard int check, and bloop, there it pops out of the machine, and there you go. Now you have one too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what is nano time warp? On a failed attempt. Oh, nice. Try
again. Yeah, so anytime you fail an attempt. So if you have the nano time warp and you have the int spell, technically you could fail the int spell and then use nano time warp because you failed the attempt to try again. It's a free reroll.
Yeah.
On everything.
You're right. Whoa. Yeah. And so it's not like you can continually use this because one of the rules is to keep it sort of like a fast action, fast paced game. You can do one thing before you carry on to the next guy, which is so this guy goes to create his device, he fails, uses the nano warp time, and then tries again and fails, and then we carry on to the next guy. So he's not sitting there doing the same thing over and over again, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's only on a failed attempt. So if you're successful, you can't reuse the nano time warp to do it again. But at least if you fail, you can go back, reverse time a half a second, and then try it again.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So many cool classes inside of the sci-fi compendium. The bioforms is we've got the mechas, the reptoids, the psychers, the geno, and the zill. So the mecha would be basically anything that's created, any kind of robot dude with a brain, sentient, whatever it is.
Yep, cyborgs, androids, robots, all of that stuff. Anything mixed in between. Advanced machines.
+1 to strength, you can be rebuilt. So essentially, you cannot die. I mean, I guess you can, but you could be rebuilt.
It depends on how much you is left. Yeah, oh wait, but you start with 2 hearts at creation. You don't start with 1.
Yeah, that's actually pretty slick.
Oh yeah, mecha tank. Can you imagine 2 hearts and then all that defensive and offensive power?
And then if things go south while you're on the battlefield, you could be rebuilt.
Here's my arm. Just pick it up and throw it in a backpack and take it with you.
Yeah, I really like that as far as the tank class goes. Reptoid, ubiquitous reptilian bipeds from all corners of the cosmos with an odd lack of emotion and primal instincts. So basically any kind of reptoid. You want to be a turtle, you want to be a lizard, you want to be, basically anything.
Yeah, draconian, whatever. Yep.
Yeah, right. +1 dex, heat vision, and this is super cool. You can walk on any surface.
I am Gecko. Yep, that's pretty cool. I've seen that used to pretty good effect.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic, and it's like there is no tricks. Some games try and overcomplicate it. Just go ahead and walk on that. Have at her. Mm-hmm. So the Psyker is what is it? The gray-skinned founder race of telepaths and super scientists. So these would be your typical gray-skinned or the Greys that apparently come and visit Earth, kind of a thing. Yeah,
the Greys, the aliens that we all are infatuated with on the internet. They get a +1 to their intelligence, and they are able to use an investigate check to read minds, which is always cool. Never know what everyone else is thinking. And I've used this to great effect. They get limited telekinetics, the ability to move objects with their mind.
So, but what is the definition of limited?
Well, I had talked to Hankerin about this when we were playing the game, and a little bit afterwards, how do you limit that? How do you use it so where they can't be using it every single time? And he said, just use the regular rules. You make a normal check. Next time you make a hard check, maybe use a spell burn on them so they can't use it very often, or you can limit the amount of weight or the amount of uses that they can get out of it. Give them a 3 count before they can't use it for the day or for the game, or maybe only limit it to pushing something the size of a bread box or a couple of pounds in weight. Either way, it's not full-blown telekinetics where you can lift a car and throw it at someone or fly at supersonic speeds, that kind of stuff. You just want to make it a little bit less powered, a little bit, push the pencil, turn the doorknob, poke your buddy kind of thing.
Yeah, you're not tractor beaming a spaceship back into the shuttle bay
exactly.
kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, you're doing what I would do. I grabbed onto one of my friends floating in space, and I pushed off the spaceship to push myself into the air bay of the other one. It was just a simple, like my arm pushing against the wall. Since there's no friction and no gravity, it wouldn't take much more than just that to send me tumbling in the other direction because I had nothing to stop me. So that's what I use my limited telekinetics in our game of Flight of the Red Sword to save us when we had gone outside of the ship before it exploded, so we can push ourselves into the warp shell.
Mm-hmm. Limited telekinetics in itself is the kind of thing where you want to set that up in advance with your players, like what your expectations are as a DM and your players' expectations of that are. I'll give you an example. In my 50 Fathoms campaign, they have elemental manipulation. When I read the spell, you could move a glass of water, purify some water, create a bit of water, splash water in somebody's face.
Not turn a hydrant on out of the ground.
My player, however, thought that he could create a 100-foot tall geyser and make a water bench and sit on the bench and then water bench himself 100 feet up to the top of this plateaued island thing. And I'm like, sure, go ahead and do it. But I think we might need to refresh ourselves on what the spell does.
And it's like it looks like a water fountain just broke out from the bottom, and it's like arcing like 6 inches out of the ground instead of the big geyser that he wants.
So we did Stumpy Pete's treasure quest thing. And it's a small island. It's not on the map. They roll up to this place, and it's a 100-foot cliff wall that they have to scale with Stumpy Pete, who is called Stumpy Pete because he has 2 wooden peg legs, and somebody has to carry him, and they got to make 3 climbing checks to successfully get to the top, or they're taking falling damage. And so my mage guy, he's the water elemental mage. He's like, yeah, I'm going to cast water walking. And so he water walks out into the ocean, and then he casts elemental manipulation to create a bench made of water that he sits on and just elevates himself like an elevator up to the top. I'm like, make your spell casting check. But then I read the elemental manipulation thing, and I'm like, wait a second.
They got away with one on that one.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll let him have it. The Geno. So this is basically your typical human.
Your generico human. Yep. Mm-hmm. Good old-fashioned male or female genetic creation. You get +1 to any 2 stats, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Good old Stan, good old Jimmy, good old John, whatever you want to call him. Your basic humanoid.
John, Jimmy, Joe, Bob.
Right. And then lastly, we've got the Zill. So these are the characters that I think that Hankerin was playing. A bio-generated microgravity field to realign their chitinous body components. So it is some kind of weird, held together by stuff, magnets, bits, pieces that just I envision it like imagine a shale. Is that what's that black shiny material? Like those little black shiny rocks and stuff that you would see. And just like a whole pile of small obsidian rocks that basically form the shape of whatever this creature would be. Because Hankerin was doing some cool stuff when he was explaining it. Like he pulled his head off of his body and put it on the front of the machine that they were like driving on the car or the vehicle. And then he like floated his arms to the back so they weren't even like attached. And he was doing some other stuff while he was creating a device. He was, keeping lookout, which was pretty neat.
Yeah, leave it to Hankerin to come up with a creative idea for how to do a race, right? Especially an alien race. Yeah, these guys are pretty cool. It says little is known of their time, and they have little in common with all other cultures. So total outside the box kind of race. They get +1 to their constitution. They're immune to vacuum, which is important to know when you're on a warp shell outside in space. And they get a +1 natural armor. So pretty tough and resilient little creatures there.
Yeah, they're just weird. Like I say, I feel like they're just like little rocks that, are sort of just form themselves into a shape. And
yeah, if he's playing a Zill outsider, he can easily use the master distension coil to become stretchy. So that gives him his ability to be able to do what he needs to do.
It was cool. Sea of Rust is fantastic.
I've
And
got to
that's
look at
it.
that. I haven't had a chance to listen to that yet, and
So
I am
good.
so like chomping at the bit to get in there and see what they're doing. I'm sure it'll give me 101 ideas.
I need more time because I don't have time to sit down and watch YouTube videos. I can't speed up YouTube videos. What I can do, however, is download them into MP3 format and then listen to them while I'm driving around for 10, 12 hours a day at work. So that said, we're going to wrap this up. We're done. 58 minutes into, we pinned it all in one night. Now, before we go, Victor, I have a question. Something that's been on my mind.
Shoot.
Okay. Hold person. Coup de grace.
Sure.
So
Sure.
if you were to cast hold person
Sure.
and then they're held and then you coup de grace them, which is, just kill them. You just basically call them dead because you've slit their throat or whatever.
Sure.
Here's my question. What happens when you fail? How would you roll with that? Cast again?
What happens when you fail the coup de grace or the whole person?
So I cast hold person on you and I
Right.
fail. Next time I cast hold person on you and I fail. Next time I cast hold person on you and I fail. Where do you draw the line? How would you handle something like that where, because in ICRPG there's no power points, there's no spell, there is spell burn if you choose to use that as a rule,
Sure.
but essentially you can cast as many times as you want. There's no rules that say
Sure.
that a person becomes immune to anything.
So for hold person, did the person who you're trying to hold know that you're casting a spell against them, or were you
Yes.
doing it like so? You were actively trying to stop, freeze, sleep kind of thing, and you
Sure.
weren't able to get it off, right? So the
Okay.
first time is a normal roll. The second time I would do it as a hard roll. If you couldn't do it after the third time, I would just say give up, or the character has become immune to it until he has time away from you, because it's kind of obvious. It's kind of like someone trying to hypnotize you and telling you, okay, I'm going to hypnotize you. It's not going to work because they don't know. You know what I mean? They can become immune and more mentally prepared for it. That's what I would do. I would put like a number of uses that you can try before it's just impossible. The first time's normal. The second time's hard. The third time, okay, it's another hard roll, but if you don't get it after that, it's not going to work anymore. Just for the sake of, shits and giggles. Otherwise, you're going to have a guy doing what you're doing 6 times in a row. You're trying to cast the same spell. And it doesn't, mechanically it works, but in terms of the story, it doesn't make sense. It turns into something silly, unless that's the kind of game you're playing. Like if you're playing in a horror, old Victorian haunted house kind of game, Cthulhu or something to that effect. You might be able to get away with that a couple of times. But if you're hardcore, modern warfare kind of thing, or even a fantasy game where you're just trying to get that person to sleep or to listen or to stop or to freeze, and it doesn't work after the first or second time, that person's going to retaliate. Have that enemy or have that other character go after the person trying to cast them a spell to keep them from casting the spell every time. Engage them in melee. That always stops a magic user dead in his tracks.
Yeah, so let's say you were hiding behind underneath a crate or underneath a cart in a typical fantasy adventure, and you're casting sleep on Mr. Bad Guy. He doesn't know you're there.
Yeah.
Right?
If they don't know they're there, you can cast as many times as you want. It's kind of like, how are you going to walk down the street and a sniper shoots you? What are you going to do? Dodge? Like, how? You didn't see the shot coming. It's coming from so far away. By the time you hear the gun blast, the bullet have already hit you. So
you're laying on the ground dead already.
So there's that. If you hear like that, the ricochet of the bullet off the mountain, and you look around and you don't see no one, you're like, what was that noise? You won't know it's a bullet unless you've been trained or you've been in combat to where you had that happen. So you just continue on your merry way, and the next thing you know, you feel one in the back of your head. You're not going to know that someone's shooting at you. But it's different if they see you, you point at them, and lightning bolt zips past their brain but misses them. The second time you do that, give the other character a bonus or make it more difficult for that mage to be able to do that. Or like I said, you're not going to sit there and let someone shoot you with a pistol right in front of you. Fight them or flee. That person's going to go looking for cover, or they're going to go and fight the mage. So make it harder for them a second time, or close the distance, or have the target get lost. That's what I would do. But if you get someone in a hold person and you're able to coup de grace them, they could be staring at the gun as it goes right up to their forehead, or the knife as it goes right through their heart. There's nothing they can do about it when it comes to a hold person spell, because you literally have them petrified. You've frozen their nervous system. They can't retaliate. That's the catchphrase to that spell. It's kind
Yeah.
of like the turn to stone spell. You're stone. You're dead. There's no living. There's no dying. You may stay that way for 100 years. Yes, it's reversible. Doesn't mean you can survive it.
I like your style, Victor. I like your style.
Kill them with the best of them, because if they make the mistakes, they've got to learn to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic way to go. I'm going to give you your first one, and then I'm going to give you your second one hard, and then
Sure.
after that, I'm going to call them immune to
Yeah.
for, whatever
Yeah,
your magic.
especially if they can see it coming.
And
If
then
they can see it, or they have any kind of warning, even if it's a buddy or another player character going, "Hey, get down! Someone's going to shoot at you," or be careful. There's the gunfire or incoming or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, then now they're prepared. Now you can try it once more, or maybe a second time more, but that's about it. After that, you have to come up with a rule or some kind of thing to tell them that this is not going to work anymore.
I'm thinking third time, it's like that guy feels like a magical punch in the face, and he knows exactly where it came from. So if he doesn't know
no
you're
more
there,
hiding.
he does now.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
I've done that even with like the sleep spell with animals. Like, say you've got a giant fox or two and a couple of cubs or whatever, like a dire fox. You wouldn't think it's that big of a deal, but when you have a fox the size of a German Shepherd, it could scare the crap out of you, and it could do some serious damage, especially if it's a mother protecting her, her cubs or whatever. So a mage casts sleep from high up in a tree, and the sleep doesn't work. Okay, well, shame on you. And then he tries it again because he really needs to put them to sleep. The second time he tries it, I'd either give the fox cover, or after the end of that turn, I'd allow the fox or the animals to be able to smell the magic, the mist, or something from the mage sweating, because the spell's not working, because their pheromones change, and then just let them start charging him or going towards the area, to the tree he's hiding in or near the edge of the cliff, get closer to him and make him feel that, that distance. Because technically, as long as you can still cast a spell and have the range and the line of sight, the mage can cast it all he wants. But ICRPG has that little mechanic where you can make it hard and kind of slow them down and change all that really quick. That's what I would do, especially in D&D. I've seen it done a lot of times that way with different spells, not just hold person, petrification, stone to flesh to stone, all those different ones. You can go crazy with the number of spells that there are that allow you to do that.
Mm-hmm. I think there might have been a couple of times during Flight of the Red Sword where I actually put like a we're gonna pause, and then discuss how we want to, you and I me as a GM and you as a player want to resolve this issue, or the issue that needs resolving, and then we just come to an agreement on how said mechanic is going to work, and then we pick up the game, and away we go from there.
Yeah. A rule that I've been using for almost as I would say at least 20 years or so. It's just a little house rule that we came up with a bunch of my gaming buddies when I was in high school, actually. And we call it the time stop rule. So the entire table has 3 time stops, and we usually put 3 coins or 3 gems or something, 3 beads or whatever, 3 cards, whatever we want to call it. And the entire party, anybody at the table, can use these 3 time stops. So we have a rule at our table whenever we played games when we were kids. I still carry that rule to this day. When we're playing games, the world does not stop. The world is continuously moving. Time is continuously going on. You can't just sit here and argue for 20 minutes. Did that bullet hit or did that bullet not hit? There's things going on. So if the party starts arguing about it, okay, that your turn's done. Who's going next? Wait a minute, we need to figure this problem out. So we got into such arguments about different kind of existential rules and metagaming like that we came up with this 3 time stop rule. So anyone in the party can use a time stop. Whenever you use a time stop, you freeze the world. So bullets stop in midair, characters, are attacking monsters or throwing flames, and all of that freezes, and the GM shuts up. But the players can talk amongst themselves for hours if they want to, until they unfreeze time. Then the GM picks up right where he left off. Now, the nice thing about it is it gives the players a chance to get a breather and talk about it. But the players can't ask the GM, what's going on? What do I see? You have to limit the amount of information that the GM can give them. So that way you don't give up too much of the plot, or you don't give up too much of what's going to happen next in the next turn, because they don't know. And usually it gives you time to put on your evil genius, the GM hat, and say, okay, that dragon that was throwing flames, his brother comes around the corner, and totally out of nowhere, they're like, wait a minute, we didn't plan on that. That's not my problem. That's your problem. And then they go, wait a minute, okay, we'll use the second time stop. And so they get 3 every time you sit down to a session. they can stop time and discuss amongst themselves. If it takes more than a few minutes or it's something where we need to have a discussion, yeah, I'll have a tribunal. But usually I'll write it down. I'll save it till the end unless they really want to use a time stop. And a lot of the time, the only time the characters or the parties use it is when they're down shit creek and they don't know what to do. And then, hold on, time stop. I've got 2 people dead. This guy's hurt and I don't know what the hell to do. So they start figuring it out amongst themselves. So maybe you can use that to kind of control the game a little bit better in terms of the players having some control over what's going on.
Hell of a great idea. And we're trying to keep this podcast PG, so no more saying the word creek.
I love it. Yeah.
All right. That said, take us out. Some show. No, wait a second. What are we doing here? We're done. We're not done, but we're done. Where's my show
We're
notes?
at the outro. Ladies and gentlemen, you can reach us at the murderhoboshow@gmail.com or get us on Twitter if you can keep it under 140 characters at Murder Hobo Show. Or, of course, over at the Google Plus page for the Murder Hobo Show under the Nerds International banner. You can always reach out to myself over on the Google Plus page for Index Card RPG. You can also reach out to Gary as the Murder Hobo Show on the same Plus page. You all 1,800 of you kind of crazy, lumpy-headed people that are the creative force behind Index Card Role-Playing Game. Thank you so much for listening to us. I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, reach out and touch me. That's all I'm saying.
Ew.
Wow. I thought we were friends, man. Oh my God. Be sure to swing by the Murder Hobo Show on Podbean and check out the show notes for some links to cool creative people, places, and things. You're going to find all the show notes for stuff that we talked about inside the beginning part of the show. And tune in next time. We're going to have another action-packed show. We're actually going to be talking about spells. There's a bit on spells that we got to get through for the next little part, and then we're going to talk about some world primers and the way that this book is set up and some of the cool stuff that goes on with that. So, yeah, stick around.
World Primers, my favorite.
It's mine too. Sweet and
I've got
saucy.
lots to talk about for World Primers. I could talk about World Primers all day.
I know you're like a primer, a 6-pack of primers.
I'm up to almost 20.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that
20 primers. I have like 340 something pages of primers that I haven't finished yet. There's still lots to do. Lots of gaming to do. I love it.
Fantastic. All right. Peace out, everybody.